Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Fall Financial Series webinar presented by the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. We're a one-stop shop for all things small business to help you guys start and grow your business. We're affiliated and based out of the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. We are partially funded through grants through the Small Business Administration, as well as the U of A and local other granting agencies, such as the Northwest Arkansas Council. And today, this is our, I believe it's our 7th webinar in our Fall Financial Series. And we're going to be addressing the topic of how to get approved or what to do to prepare to be approved for financing. So looking into loans and investment. So if you'd like to get in touch with us at the before we get started, if you'd like to get in touch with us at the ASBTDC, there's our phone number there on the left-hand side, 479-575-5148, as well as our web address there and our email and all of our social media. We're on social media as well. We're really easy to find. My name is Scott Lacy. I'm an ASBTDC consultant. I've been here for a little over a year and a half now. My specialty is in small business startup, as well as small business financial management. I've owned 2 of my own businesses. I owned with my wife. I owned a jewelry manufacturing business as well as a swap wallet wholesale business. My wife still runs the swap wallet wholesale business, but the pandemic made it shrink just a little bit because some of those services weren't quite as needed. And so now I'm doing this full time and really enjoying it, but still also running the operations and the finance side of the business with my wife, the business that we have as well. I'd love to talk with you individually if you have any additional questions or if you'd like a little bit more personalized service. You can reach me my email there. It's sl072@uark.edu. You can just go to our website. You can either email me directly or you can go to our website and just click the button in the top right-hand corner that says get a consultation, and you can sign up for a consultation. And it takes about 5 minutes to do, and we'd love to meet with you. All right, so now we're going to dive in to this installment of our Fall Financial Series, getting approved for financing, loans, and investments. And if you guys are having a hard time hearing me, just make sure to let me know. Just put that in the chat box or the Q&A. I just want to make sure that everything's all right. So in getting prepared for financing, in order to apply for a loan or to get a loan or to get investment, you've really got two key objectives. One, you really want to focus on your present business. You want to make sure that the current business is as attractive as possible, and you want to also look for the future to create a great plan to implement the financing that you might potentially receive. So as we move forward today with this agenda, I want you to think about 2 things. How can I make my present business solid? How can I shore up the foundation and make it a great looking business? What can I do now to what actually already exists? And then the second thing you want to do is think about the future of your business, thinking about projections and what things are going to look like in the future, and coming up with a really appealing future plan or future picture of what the business could look like if you got the financing that you needed. So 2 key things there. What can I do today to make my existing business great? And 2, what can I do to create a really compelling future picture of what my business could look like if I got approved for additional financing or received additional investment? So first, we're going to focus on the present. So 2 things that you can do to focus on the present. You can begin today by creating a healthy history of your business. The second thing you can do is focus on the 5 C's of credit, which we're going to get into. So in order to create a healthy history of your business, the first thing that you want to make sure that you do is you have great current financial statements. Nobody is going to look at you, no bank and no investor is going to look at your business unless you have up-to-date, current, good-looking, well-done financial statements and bookkeeping done. So you're going to want to make sure that all of your transactions are being reported accurately on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, that you've got a great balance sheet, a great income statement, and a great statement of cash flows, and that all of the numbers of your business are really well organized. This includes also making sure that your taxes are filed every single year, because the first thing that people are going to want to look at are your financial statements to see how your business has performed in the past. They're going to want to see your sales and your profitability and your cash flow and your debt and your equity and all those kinds of things. And where those things are seen are on your financial statements that are created from your bookkeeping and from your accounting system. So if you haven't started doing that yet, and you're looking at doing a loan or investment in the future, that's the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're getting those financial statements healthy, organized, and looking really, really good, and that you actually have them. The second thing, really focus on those sales. Investors and banks will like to see a good, healthy sales amount, at least flat sales, preferably growing sales over a period of time, because ultimately, if a business doesn't have sales, there's just not enough there. So the third thing to look at is profitability, making sure that your business is as profitable as it possibly can be. It's not a requirement, but the more profitable you are, the better chance you're going to have of getting that loan. That's going to be on your income statement. Positive cash flow from your operations is another really big one. Making sure that you don't just have profit, but that you also have positive cash flow from your operations. I mean, you also on your balance sheet, you want to have a healthy debt to equity ratio. We're going to get into that in just a minute. I'm going to show you how to calculate that and try to explain it a little bit more in depth. So you want to create, so this is just an encapsulated package of how to create a healthy history of your business, because generally what people like to loan towards are businesses with a healthy history. Now, they don't want to loan to a business that is in crisis or going through an emergency or on the verge of failure. People like to loan to things with a proven track record, showing that you've done really well with a little bit, and now you're growing and you can do really well with a little bit more responsibility or a little bit more cash in the bank to be able to operate your business. They want to see that good, solid, healthy, growing history. So focus today on making your business as healthy as you possibly can and creating that track record, because usually people want at least a 2-year track record. Not always, but generally they want to see a good 2-year track record. All right, so the next thing you want to look at, if we're getting into your debt to equity ratio, I'm going to look at how is your business financed. And this is going to be on your balance sheet as we showed there. If you're wondering what your balance sheet is, I would encourage you to go to our resources website and look on look at the video on making sense of financial statements. And in that webinar that I did a few weeks ago, it'll dive into exactly what the balance sheet is and how to read it, how to utilize it. So the reason we want to get debt to equity ratio is because there's 2 ways to finance a business. There's 2 ways to get assets in your business. You can either finance those through debt, through loans and credit cards and those kinds of things, other obligations to people outside of the business, or you can finance it through equity, which is investment from investors or owners of your company, or through retained earnings from the profits of your company from previous periods. And it's usually the more equity, the more finance from equity you have, the stronger position your business is usually in. So the debt to equity ratio is simply the total debt divided by the total equity. Generally, the lower the better. Usually you want to have at least less than 1. If you've got less than 1, that means you've got less debt on the business than you do equity, which means that you're a little bit more stable of a business because you're being financed, usually through owner financing or through profits from previous periods in the business, as opposed to taking on outside debt, which really tends to weigh the business down and is a little bit riskier. So if you've got a lot of debt right now, you really want to focus on trying to bring that debt down as much as possible, especially if your debt to equity ratio is over 1. Okay, so the next thing you want to do in order to get your business ready for investment or loans, that's something to do in the present today that you can control right now, is to focus on what we call the 5 C's of credit. 5 C's are listed right here for you, either your credit score, your personal credit score, and your business credit score if you've got one. Capital, which is the amount of money that you're going to bring to the table to get the loan or the investment. Collateral, the management competency of the company, and then the character of the management or the owners of the company. So first, let's get into credit score. So most of you are going to be really familiar with credit score. The higher, the better. Of course, the max is 850. Generally, banks want to see above a 700 credit score. They will do in the 600s typically, usually never below 600, rarely below 600. But 700 or above is a lot better. And one of the quickest ways you can improve your personal credit score is to bring down your debt utilization percentage. So for instance, if you've got, a maximum credit allotment that, creditors have allowed you to have $10,000 in personal credit, and you're using you're using $5,000, and you've got then you've got a 50% credit utilization. It's going to bring your credit score down, your personal credit score down quite a bit. So if you can get that down to like less than $1,000, or generally less than around 15%, less than 10%, that's going to bring your credit score up pretty quickly. Also, just making your payments on time and checking your credit report to make sure you don't have any misinformation or false information on there. So just for example, recently, my wife and I, we bought a house, and before that we'd been living in an apartment where our house was being built, and the apartment complex didn't notify us that we owed a little bit of like cleaning and repair fees on the apartment. They sent us a letter, but it never got to us for one reason or another. I think it went to our old address, and so they put that fee that we never received into collections, and it went on my credit report as a derogatory comment, and that never should have happened until I saw it on there, called the apartment complex, called the credit collection agency and said, hey, this shouldn't be on there. There's a mistake on the apartment complex side. They took care of it all, got it off of there, and our credit score went back up. So things like that happen to everybody. Just make sure you're really monitoring that credit score and getting it up as high as you possibly can, paying down your debt, making on-time payments, and making sure that your credit report is accurate. The second part is the capital. That's referring to the part that you bring to the table, specifically if you get a loan. Most banks, and even the SBA or Small Business Administration loans, they're going to want 10 to 20% of, they're going to want you to contribute 10 to 20% of the total amount that you're asking for. So if you're asking for $100,000, they're going to ask you to contribute usually $10,000 to $20,000. And if you're not able to do that, there may be some other alternative type loans that you can go after with, community lenders, Kiva or Communities Unlimited or Forge. But generally, a bank or the SBA, they're going to want 10 to 20% they're looking for. And if you don't have that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to get. The more capital you can bring to the table, if you can bring more than 20% to the table, the more likely you're able to be able to get the loan, just because it makes it less risky for the bank. The third thing is collateral. So the more that you're able to back up the loan with collateral assets that you have, whether it's your home or cars or even equipment that you might be potentially buying, or land or buildings, just things that the bank could potentially seize if you happen to default in a worst case scenario, so that they could pay them so that they could collect on the loan. The more collateral you have, the higher chance of being able to get that loan that you're going to. If you don't have any collateral, it's going to be a little more difficult. The fourth is competency. The banks and investors, they really want to see that you've got the competency, that you've got the management skill and the management experience to be able to pull this business off and to be able to make it successful. If you want to start a jewelry business and you've never been in the jewelry industry, you're probably not going to get a loan to start a jewelry company. Same thing for food and beverage industry, same thing for building homes or having a restaurant or any type of industry it is. Unless you can really show that you've got competency to be able to manage that business, so that you've got significant experience in that industry, it's going to be very difficult for you to get that loan. So you really want to also look into making sure that you're getting the right education, that you're getting the right experience, that you're developing the right track record and the right history to prove your competency so that you can get that loan. And then finally, the fifth one is character. Most institutions are going to run a background check on you just to make sure that you don't have any significant criminal history. They're also going to look, it's part of your credit score, is looking into your payment history to see how well you've done at paying back your loan and other forms of credit that you may have had in the past. But they're going to look into your character as well, just to know that you're on the up and up, you're somebody with integrity whom they can trust to pay back the loan, because ultimately that's what these institutions are concerned with, is they want to know that they're going to get paid back. That's their number one priority, is making sure that you're going to pay back these loans. So those are 5 things that you can work on today to improve your odds of getting the loan or the investment that you want. We just call it the 5 C's of credit: credit score, capital, collateral, competency, and character. All right, and then looking into the future, there's 2 things that the institution, either the bank or the investor, is going to require you to have. So one is financial projections, and the second is the business plan. So first we'll cover the financial projections. So every institution is going to want you to provide at least 2, sometimes up to 3, generally 3 years of financial projections for your income statement and your cash flow. And this is one of the things that I do on a regular basis with clients. I do this every single day, is help develop these financial projections. They're not just guesses. They are generally based on at least a few hard data points that we can point to. And it takes, a few hours to create these, but it's something that we do a whole lot. I'd be more than happy to help you with. We can do this together if you just want to get in touch with me. And I use this in order to help them understand what the ability you're going to have to be able to pay this loan is. They're going to want to see that with this loan that you've already done the work, that you put the numbers on the paper to ensure that you're going to be able to pay back this loan or give them their return on investment if they offer you this money. And then they're also going to want to see the assumptions for those projections supported really, really well. So not just guesses. And they're also going to look at the debt service coverage ratio, which we talked a little bit about already in a different way, but we're going to talk about this debt service coverage ratio a little more here in a couple of slides. So how do you support your assumptions? What are these financial projections really contain? So the first thing that you should really do is break your business down into revenue streams. What a revenue stream is it's a specific product line or place where you're getting a significant source of your revenue from. So for instance, if you're a coffee shop, so one significant revenue stream would be coffee. The other significant revenue stream you might have in a coffee shop would be your food items. Another might be merchandise. So those are 3 fairly distinct products that are all bringing revenue into your business that you can isolate and identify. So, one will be coffee, one will be the food items, and then another might be merchandise. And generally every business has got, at least 1 or 2 or 3 revenue streams that they can break their business down into. If you're in commercial construction, for instance, you might do renovations as one revenue stream. You might do subdivision home developments as another revenue stream. And then a third revenue stream might be custom home building. So those would be 3 different revenue streams. But what that does is that helps us break down our revenue projections into more understandable pieces. And then that makes it makes the revenue a little bit more predictable when you can see those revenue streams. Because generally you can say, if I'm a coffee shop, 60% of my sales are from coffee, 30% of my sales are from food, and then 10% of my sales are from merchandise. And what that helps you do is to predict your sales a little bit more accurately. The second thing is your cost of goods, your COGS, also known as your cost of goods sold. You can support this assumption or this future projection in those financial projections by making sure that you have good historical data on your cost of goods sold previously. So if you know that your cost of goods sold historically was 30%, even if you get this loan projecting forward, you can pretty well accurately say your cost of goods sold is going to stay flat at 30% or maybe decrease a little bit to 28% if you're going to be a little bit more efficient potentially. But that's how you support those assumptions. You also want to know your average ticket, and you want to know the number of clients that you're seeing on a regular basis. So just to continue our coffee shop example, in order to project your sales, you want to know when your customers do come in and they do make a purchase, what's the average ticket that they're spending? What's the average total spend on each ticket that you give a client? So when a client comes in, are they spending an average of $2.50, or are they spending an average of $7.50? And then depending on that, how many clients do you have to have in a given day in order to pay bills, to pay overall, to pay the expenses for the business? That's going to help you project those expenses. You also want to know what your customer acquisition cost is and what your conversion rate are. Customer acquisition cost is simply how much you're spending on marketing and how many new customers are you getting as a result of that marketing spend. And your conversion rate is how many people are seeing your marketing efforts, and then of everyone who's seeing the marketing efforts, how many of those people are actually becoming customers. And we can get all of that data if you've got really good historical financial data. And that's how we support your assumptions for your financial projections moving forward. All right, so the next thing you want to look at is your debt service coverage ratio. This is really key. It's one of the first things that a loan officer is going to look at when you apply for a loan, to make sure that you can pay your loan back. It's called DSCR, debt service coverage ratio. Basically what it means is that based on your financial projections and based on your historical financial documents, your historical financial statements, is it likely that you're going to have enough net operating income to pay your total current debt service, including the new loan that you're planning on taking on? So this is literally how it's calculated on if you're able or if you're going to be able to pay back the loan that you're taking out, given the amount of current debt service that you have with the new loan that you're going to have. You're going to take your net operating income and then divide it by your total current debt service. And your total current debt service generally does include a rent or a lease payment. Even though that's not technically debt, it is something that you're paying on a monthly basis in a similar way to debt, and most banks are going to include that in there. So it's going to be rent plus your other current debt service. And it's everything that's within the next 12 months. So this is just current debt. It's not all of your long-term debt. It's just the current debt that's going to come due in the next 12 months. So you're going to do your net operating income for 12 months divided by your total current debt service that you're obligated to pay over the next 12 months. And your goal is 1.25 or above. But this number changes just a little bit depending on the industry. Some industries it's more, some industries it's less. But generally, this is about the minimum where you want is 1.25. So you want to make sure that your net operating income is 1.25 times the total current debt service that you've got in a 12-month period. And we're going to give you an example right here. So let's just say, for example, you're projecting in 2022, you're applying for a loan, and you're saying in 2022, my net projected operating income is going to be $72,000, and my net projected total current debt service for the 12 months of 2022 is going to be $54,000. So that will be all of your rent, all of your other current debt, and maybe a startup loan, maybe a credit card payment, that kind of thing. All that total current debt. And so then you would take your net operating income for 12 months, 72,000, divide it by 54,000, which is your total current debt service, and that gives you a ratio of 1.3. And so then depending on the bank policy at the time, the state of the economy, and the industry that you're in compared to other businesses like that are similar to yours, they may or may not loan to you based on this debt service coverage ratio of 1.3. And then finally, what else are you going to need? You're going to need a business plan. And specifically in the business plan, what I really like to see in business plans regarding finances and getting ready for loans and investment, and what lenders like to see, they want to see exactly how much you need or how much you believe that you need. Then they want to know exactly what are you going to use that money for. So it's not just a general broad, hey, give me $50,000. I'm going to use that in my business for a whole lot of different things. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm going to use for what, but I think $50,000 in general will be good now. It needs to be very specific. I'm going to use 10,000 for this, 10,000 for this, 10,000 for this. And then finally, how will spending that money, how will that use of funds improve and grow the operating cash flow of your business and the profitability of your business? So how is it going to improve the amount of cash that you're bringing in, and how is it going to improve your profitability? So when you're writing your business plan, because every institution is going to ask you to write a business plan in order to qualify for this loan, the three things that you really want to make sure to include in that is how much do you need, what are you going to use it for, and then explain how that use of funds is going to improve and grow the operating cash flow and the profitability of your business. All right, that's all I've got. I went through that pretty quick. We just did it in 26 minutes. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to look at the chat and look at some of the questions and see what we've got here. All right, first question. Yes, sorry, somebody was asking if you're automatically muted. Yeah, there's a little bit of background noise in our office today. There's some construction going on outside. I really apologize about that. I've done my best to sort of make it as quiet as possible. All right, so if you've got any If you've got any other questions, just let me know. I'm going to be here for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so, and we'll be really happy to help you out however I can. The biggest thing that most banks are looking for, they want to see that you've got good credit, and they want to know that you're going to pay them back. So but a saying in the financial industry is that profits, nobody gets paid in profits. Nobody gets a paycheck in profit. People only get a paycheck in cash. And so a lot of banks, what they really look at is that service coverage ratio and that operating cash flow more than anything, because they want to know that they're going to get paid back and you pay them back in cash. So they're going to look more at your cash flow statement than just about anything. All right, we've got a question coming in. If you're doing a sale that includes a commission, can you use that commission as an assumption if you know how many items were sold on the market price per item? Not sure I understand the question. If you're doing a sale that includes a commission, can you use that commission as an assumption if you know how many items are sold and the market price per item? Yeah, I'm sorry. See if you can be a little more specific, specifically on a timber sale based on inventory estimation. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time understanding your question. I think I need a little bit more background. Yeah, I think we need to talk a little bit more about that. I'm not quite, I don't think I'm going to be able to answer that for you without some more explanation about exactly what you're asking. But definitely get in touch with me, email me, sl072@uark.edu. Best thing to do is email for sure. Just again, here's my contact information. And there's our website, www.sbtdc.uark.edu. All right, next question. If I'm solid on 4 of the 5 C's, can I overcome a competency deficit? I've never managed a business. Oh yeah, definitely. So everything is, subjective is probably the wrong word, but they look at the totality of your application. And just because you've never managed a business before doesn't mean you're going to get turned down. Most people who start their own business have never managed a business before. What they really want to see is that you understand your product, that you understand your market, and that you understand your industry. They want to make sure that that you've got some experience. So generally right now, I mean, and typically historically, if you wanted to open a restaurant and you've got no restaurant experience whatsoever, like you've never even been a server, they're probably not going to loan you unless you're able to go out and get some experience. So it's not necessarily that you've managed a business, because a lot of that you can learn, but it's more to do with experience and familiarity with your product and your market and that kind of thing. So for instance, me, I've never done steel manufacturing, so I understand business really, really well. But because I've never done steel manufacturing, I'm probably not going to get a loan to be able to manufacture steel. So you look at it that way as well. And I would say also too that some of those C's are more heavily weighted than the other C's. So, you know, you can have all the competency in the world, but if you don't have that 10 to 20% capital to contribute in order to get the loan, you're probably not going to get the loan. Or if it's a fairly risky loan and you don't have any collateral, then you're probably not going to get the loan, even though you've got a lot of competency and the capital. So some of them are weighted a little bit more heavily. In other words, I would say competency is probably weighted a little bit less than some of the others, but it's still important. Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. I'm just gonna wait for some other questions to come in. I'm gonna put the PowerPoint back up until we get some more questions. So focus on the present. You know, make sure there's some things that you can definitely do to make your business more attractive now, and then also looking to create a great plan for the future to make your business look really attractive moving forward. I'm just gonna flip through some of these slides again, see if it generates any more questions from you guys. We work on those financial projections with people all the time. It's one of the main things that we do. I'd be happy to sit down and do that with you. Make sure those assumptions are supported, so you're not just guessing on your financial projections. And make sure you've got a good debt service coverage ratio. These are some things to look at to help you support those assumptions. Look at your revenue streams, look at your cost of goods sold, look at your average ticket or your average sale, customer acquisition cost, conversion rate. Maybe look at your potential market size and not just the total potential market, but your actual addressable market. So if you're a coffee shop, you know, the coffee industry is worth several $billions, but your addressable market is only your local area, which might be, you know, 40 or 50,000 people. And then there's the formula again for debt service coverage ratio. So it's your net operating income, again, over 12 months, and then your total current debt service, which includes your rent and lease payments typically over the next 12 months. And if you're wondering how you compare to other industries, I can pull that market research for you if you're interested to see what the DSCR should be for your industry. And there's our example. All right, well, if there's no other questions, really appreciate you guys. Glad to have you. And that's our last one for the year. We're going to start back up in January with the financial series. We're going to make some tweaks and some adjustments and do some new webinars with a little bit different information, covering a little bit of similar information. And we're also going to start doing approximately every 3 weeks an in-person one-day boot camp that's going to last from about 9 a.m. to 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And that's really going to dive deep on the financial statements and how to manage your small business finances really, really well. So again, thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you next time.